we'll be doing sets like 400 plus 4 1s again, but this time 400s would be just like aerobic, where 4 1s would be descent by round in 3 rounds like that. So yeah, I'm just used to do that all stuff. I enjoy it and like suffering, and just this is what I gain confidence from that.
Welcome to Social Kick. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got the full crew: Dr. John Mullen, Luke Paddington, and Andrei Minakov. What's up, Andrei? How are you?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, everything is good here.
All right. Well, what is here? Last we saw, you had entered the transfer portal, and just kind of there were some options open. So where is here? What's going on? Give us the latest. What's going on with your swimming career?
Well, in fact, I entered the transfer portal twice. But as of now, I'm currently training with the Stanford team here in California. So,
Nice.
Yeah, technically I never left Stanford.
You look like you're in a hotel, though. Are you in a hotel?
Yeah, because it's a winter training. The campus life is not hasn't started yet. That's why we're just waiting to get into our dorms later, like in a week or so. So we're staying in the hotel and doing winter training.
Is that the way they do things on the farm? They just lock it down so nobody on?
I guess so, but it's the university policy, so we can't do anything about it.
Listen, Palo Alto hotels are expensive.
It's also crazy because we get the same housing for the fall, winter, and spring, and so basically you leave all your stuff, all your clothing, and everything that you don't need, just basically in rooms, but it's just locked out. Like you cannot get in there, and you wait until everyone just moves in. So it's like crazy, but I don't know.
Oh, wait. This reminded me of something. Does all the athletes at Stanford, they stay on campus? Does anybody live off campus?
Yes, everybody's staying on campus.
Okay.
It's very rare. Maybe just like a few people, just like, I don't know, like 10 people, like 20 people of the athletic part stays outside. But even this, the living here is so expensive. It's just not worth it to earn anything off campus. And the living situation on campus is pretty great because we have a lot of dorms. We have a new dorm called EVGR, so it's just it's good.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there athlete-specific dorms, or are you guys with everyone in general, or how does that work at Stanford?
No, unfortunately, I wish we had athletic dorm. Thank God we have athletic dining, but dorm-wise, no, we have neighborhoods, and then there are freshman houses, sophomore houses. I mean, like freshman houses, sophomore houses, and then junior and aboves who lives together.
Every time I go to Stanford campus, it's completely changed. I mean, I go at least once a year, and there's a whole new dorm, there's a new building, there's an AI building. The campus is just blowing up. It feels powerful to be on campus. Like, this is the way it's going. How do you enjoy just being at Stanford and being in that environment? And it's such a beautiful smelling environment too. I love the eucalyptus trees. What's it like living in Stanford?
So yeah, the campus is just huge.
Yeah.
And probably the worst part of it is just biking from the furthest location to the pool every morning that we did last year, because I'm neighborhood D, and neighborhood D at Stanford is just the furthest location from athletics. And so I had to bike like 10 minutes in the morning, like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning just to get there, especially if it's raining, it's cold, it's wind. So that's probably the worst part. But in general, Stanford campus is just amazing. It's one of the biggest in the world. And one thing that I like about it the most is that the animal life is just a true farm. We have deers, we have squirrels, we have coyotes, we have a lot of wild animals that are just walking like around. So you bike into class and you just see like 20 squirrels on the grass. So it's cool.
Okay, wait a minute. On the wildlife bit, I don't think that I've ever seen anywhere else in the world black squirrels, except for right around that area around Stanford. Have you noticed these things? What's going on with those? And have you ever seen them anywhere else in the world?
No, black squirrels?
Black
really. Actually, I have never thought about that, but yeah, we have a lot of black squirrels. We have a lot of them.
Strangest thing. I've seen gray squirrels everywhere else, but at Stanford they're black. I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, John had something for you.
Yeah, so like we were talking earlier, I just did 100/100s, New Year's Eve tradition, at least in the States, but it sounds like it's going all over the place. Fun traditions, die hard. But what's a more sane training that you might be doing? Or tell us a little more about what your winter training and getting ready for this next season's looking like.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a good question, because this hundreds 100s challenge where is this coming from? Where is it coming from? Because I have a lot of Russian friends who also, even former swimmers, who also did that 100s challenge today. But as for us, we skipped that year. We didn't do that year. But primarily winter training is, I guess, the training cycle without days off. That's probably the way I would characterize that. Because we were even today in the water, and our next practice is 7 a.m. on the 1st of January tomorrow, which is super unusual because all my year, and in Russia, New Year is very special date. It's a very special holiday, and you get at least 3 or 4 days off because actually, like, the sport facilities is just like not open. But here it's just like getting into like 7 a.m. on the 1st of January. It's just kind of, it's actually cool because in Russia we have a saying that the way you're going to meet the New Year's evening and the way you're going to celebrate New Year is going to be the way you're going to spend the whole year. So technically, I guess the whole year is going to be productive if we meet with 7 a.m. practice.
But you must be doing some Russian New Year's traditions. I've spent with New Year's with a few Russians, and God, they're up so late, drinking, rolling dumplings, having like mayonnaise salad, all types of things like that. What about you? Are you going to be doing any of those things for New Year's Eve?
Yes, of course. It's sad that all my family is in Russia right now, and my sister is in fact in Yosemite. She has a trip with her husband. But I'm on the phone with a lot of the guys. I have all of my friends, and just constantly keeping contact, and it's just great. Absolutely, everyone is just so happy right now. Probably because they're all drunk right now.
Exactly.
What time is it in Russia?
So my wife is 3rd generation Japanese, and we're getting ready for New Year's here, and we're making a bunch of sushi. And I've been fired from sushi rolling because I'm like horrible at it. Because I like look at so much stuff and try to fit tons of stuff in sushi and never can roll it properly. So how is your dumpling making or crimpling on the dumplings? Are you pretty good at that?
I have never tried that, to be honest.
Oh. Are you from Russia?
I have never. I'm the one who is eating all of that.
You got to earn it. You got to do the 100/100s first. Yeah,
that's true.
I like that everything's transitioned. I did that set when I was maybe 13 or 14, I think. And the other big one at the time was a 6,000 IM. Those were the 2 Christmas training things when I was an age grouper. 6,000 IM, and we had a T-shirt for it. And you didn't get the T-shirt if you didn't complete all the butterflies straight without breaking stroke. Which, I mean, like, transition to later, I swimming fast butterfly. I was joking earlier, like I never even trained butterfly, yet I had the American record for years, and all I did was train sprint freestyle. And like you were saying, hey, to sprint butterfly, you just train like 25s at a time. You're not doing 100s and longer stuff. So it's so crazy that stuff like that has changed. And have you noticed the specificity too changing as you go into winter training? Like, we're talking about like these kind of crazy sets. Besides the consistency that you mentioned, do you think like specificity of training holds true all the way through winter training? It's not like scary volume and crazy epic sets that are coming, up for you on a daily basis?
You never know. You never know because our coach likes surprises. He likes to surprise us yeah, that's a good question because I don't know. All the time we just show up at the pool and we literally like hope to just like have like a little bit lower volume but like work hard. But then we would just suddenly hit like 7,000. It was just super like work, a lot of work. And especially keeping in mind that winter training, you don't have days off. So you just every day you walk into the pool deck, you're like, why am I doing that? All right, let's go. Why am I? Yeah. But it's fun, you enjoy it. Once you get into it, it's fun. It's really fun, especially when you do that with your teammates and you suffer together. That's the most fun part.
How much long course, how much short course you're doing right now? I'm interested because we used to do a lot of long course in winter training, even though we had a short course season coming up. How much are you doing of the two?
So right now, I would say 50-50. We do all the morning workouts in the long course and all the afternoon workouts in the short course yards. So that's probably 50-50.
Yeah. And how much? And who's we? Who are you training with? Are you training with the sprint freestylers? Are you training with the mid D guys? Are you mixing it up? Who's your team? Who's your group you train with?
This year I'm training with a mid group.
Oh, interesting. How's that feel?
It's much better because all my entire career I wasn't the 50 free guy, because in my opinion, the sprint group is those who swim 50 free and swim 100 freestyle based on their 50 free. So like they sprint it and then they try to hold it as much as they can. However, for me, all my entire life, I was the one that was just crushing the second half and just like working through it. And for the first time in like 6 years, in the past month in Salnikov Cup in Russia in December, I did 400 freestyle on the day one, and then I started doing the hundreds again.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7,000 seems like a lot for what I would call you a sprinter. So yeah, it makes sense being in this middle distance group. What maybe sparked this change of training? Was it kind of how things went last year, or feeling like you need a little bit more volume underneath you?
So I guess that's all comes from my childhood, because in Russia we swim a lot of volume, because we have this age group meet. So the first big meet that you have like at the age of 14 and 15 is you participate in that twice, so like 2 years in a row. And this is like kind of like the first entry in age national age group meet, where you swim 800 freestyle, 200 medley, and then 200s of your choice. And the winner is determined by the points you get based on the 800, 200, and both 100s. And so that's why since the beginning you just train everything, because you want to get ready for everything. And just in general, the way that like the Slavic and Europeans, like, because I'm pretty sure the European do that all the time as well. You gotta first do the volume, and then based on the volume, like you worked it, then you start working like with the high rates, and then go down, taper, and then race.
Talk about that. So we talked a lot about what's going on right now in Stanford and what life is like on campus and where you're living and years. But what was life growing up? Where did you grow up? I read somewhere you spent a lot of time between Russia and California. Is that true? You're a skier. This talk to us about where did you grow up in Russia? How do you end up in California? How you got into the sport, etc.
I used to do a multiple number of sports. That was tennis, a little bit of tennis, skiing. Probably my primary one was skiing, but we decided to switch to swimming, and that's actually a fun story because my mom, so she has a friend, like lifetime friend. They study in the university together, and now they're friends for more than 50 years, if I'm not mistaken, 30, 40 years. And so her daughter also went to swimming session, and so we decided to try it out as well. And then it just all my entire life prior to coming into the national team in 2017, I didn't prioritize it in to be on the national team. I didn't prioritize to be a winner. I didn't prioritize to be to be on the like world champs winner or whatever. So I was just doing swimming for fun, and especially like the second reason was that for the university in the United States, because my sister moved to the United States 10 years ago in 2012 or 2012. And that's why I just wanted to follow her path and just be at the university at the United States as well. And I knew that swimming will be one of the options how to get into school. So I was prioritizing that. And when I first got into national junior team, when we went to the World Juniors in Indianapolis in 2017, I knew only 3 swimmers. It was Vlad Marzov, Yulia Efimova, and Michael Phelps.
Okay.
Done. Nobody else. I didn't watch Olympics. I didn't watch World Champs. I didn't watch like anything prior to getting into the national team. And then once you just get in there and you realize just like, oh, where are you? Like, where are you? Like, and you just started feeling like, oh, like there swimmers that you do that World Champs, Olympics, everything. And then since then, of course, I learned a lot.
I mean, you just mentioned the only 2 swimmers, Russian swimmers I can think of who competed in the States in recent memory. Not many Russians come across here, and
Vlad. But to that point, Vlad grew up, well, at least he would spend a lot of time. I can't remember. I don't know when he moved, but I remember that he was training in Southern California too. So, I mean, he was here for a bunch. So anyway, what was the story behind that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about Vlad as much, but I know, that he was spending a lot of the time here in California training, because he went also to the high school somewhere in Los Angeles, and then he got into USC. So that's also a big period of time that he spent here. As for me as well, I was spending summers because I wasn't prior to 2017. I wasn't getting drafted for the national team or anything. So I was coming here in the summer and swimming for Terrapin swim team for 3 years in a row.
Oh.
And I don't know, just enjoying my life here, swimming, training, and getting ready for SAT exams and everything to get into school. It was doing summer school, not at Stanford, but at the part like the Concord, the way, because I was training at Terrapins, so I was also studying there at Lafayette, Concord, Pleasant Hill, these areas. And the last time I was with Terrapins was 2018 when we raced the junior nationals.
So, all right, give us an example of something that the U.S. system could learn from what the Russian swimming system is doing, and then vice versa. What do you wish the Russian swimming system, I'm calling it, could learn from the U.S. swimming system? You know, like, do you wish that you had a strong NCAA system in Russia, or is a club system good in Russia? What's one thing that is good from each of the systems that you have experienced?
Well, first of all, training-wise, if we compare the U.S. training system, and I wouldn't say Russian, I would say European, because most of the European countries do that. So there are, in European way, there are mainly 3 stages. The first stage is when you just get in aerobic shape you do a lot of volume, you keep your heart rate low on 150, 140 maximum, and you just swim. This is like probably one of the most boring parts in swimming, but yeah, you just swim it. Then the next stage is when you start increasing your heart rate, but you lower your volume. So for example, you were swimming 6 to 7,000 per practice for 2 months, 2 or 3 months. Then you bring the volume down to 5,000, but you increase the heart rate, you increase the sets. Like the example of the set we did yesterday was 3 rounds, 8-1s plus 450s. 450s were easy, just recovery, and 8-1s were basically one fast, one easy. Right. So yeah, and then you start tapering when you bring the volume, especially down like 2 to 3,000, and you occasionally, like once per 3 sessions, do some work race-based kind of stuff. In the US, it's the opposite, that you just get into the high heart rate just since the beginning. You just get right into it, and basically I'm not sure how it's. There's an idiom or the phrase that in English, but like the strongest survives, right?
Yeah.
So like start off at September and just this kind of sets, and they just hold on the whole year, and then you taper and then you swim. So that's basically probably the number one I would say, is just to get more aerobic volume, because aerobic is just like a base. It's just like a foundation of the house, and then you start build the house. If we're talking about the opposite way, probably yes. In Russia, I really wish we had some sort of the club system, because basically it's just Russian nationals, and then you get ready for the international meets. And or as of now, you're just getting Russian Cup or Solidarity Games in the summer. But basically, we don't have like any opportunities to race further than just for like the nationals or qualifying meet for nationals. In the last 2 years, the Russian Swimming Federation added a lot of the Russian Cup stages all across Russia, which is thankful to them because prior to 2022, we had only like Russian Cup qualifying meet, which would be in March, and Russian Cup final in July. And this year and last year, we have stages starting from the Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, which is the most eastern part of Russia, and then all the way to Kaliningrad, which is mainly Europe.
Wow, it's far. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all within like 4-month period or 3-month period. So yeah, but it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
All right. So talk us through so we know very little about Russia swimming. Once in a while you get a stream of a meet going on in Russia, and we see the results. We don't quite understand your results. Like I would not recognize your name in a result sheet because your name is spelled differently, etc. So talk us through what's going on now with 2024. You know, we have an idea that because it's very confusing now of what the IOC has now imposed on Russia, and then what your plans are. So what are the plans for the Russian swimmers, given all the restrictions that are happening and what Russia is doing it? how are you going about 2024 in terms of Paris? Let's just say, let's just go there. And in terms of Russia's qualifying, I don't understand it. Yeah.
So first of all, I want to mention that's that's individual decision of everyone. So everyone has his own beliefs, his own motives, and everything. Because we have people who already changed their nationalities, like Nastya Kirpichnikova, who swims for France. We have a lot of people who said the opposite. They say just no, we're not going to do that. But mainly, what I say is just the way it's they made a picture that they are bringing us back, but given all the criteria and everything, it's mainly not possible for the Russian athletes to come back, which is super, super unfair. And here's just super big injustice for all of us, basically, because there are some of the, points on the declaration, everything that would just you might even not come back to Russia after that.
Wow.
Because, and even in order to get the neutral status or something like neutral status.
Yeah.
To compete in the Olympics, then you compete in the Olympics, but then you are not allowed to participate in any competitions under Russia, where a Russian flag is or something like that. And so it means that a lot of Russian athletes right now have a choice to go to the Olympics, or they're gonna wear fully blank white clothing that they have to do by themselves. Nobody's financially supporting them, so they pay for everything their own. And if I'm not mistaken, if you win a medal, you're not getting that medal. You're not going to the podium or anything. You're just getting put in the history books, but you're not winning anything. Yes.
So it's not like Tokyo. Yeah, because in Tokyo you were under a neutral flag, and you still got to be in a podium. I mean,
yes.
But yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, this time now it's going to be way different. And after that, you're not allowed to participate nationals at Russian nationals, at Russian Cup, or any meet that's held in Russia.
So, well, let's talk about you, because that's probably the only, you're the expert of yourself. What's your plan? What are you going to do? You're just going to go and train and see what happens, and put down some long course fast times and see what happens? What have you planned for 2024 to give yourself the best shot for yourself? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For me, first of all, prioritizing that I'll be racing NCAA this year with Stanford's men's team. That's my number. That's that's gonna be a big surprise. But I don't know. Yeah, what the fans are cheering on. But after the NCAA season, I don't want to give any solutions or any conclusions right now, because everything changes very quickly. I remember when in 2016, Yulia and some of the other Russian athletes were allowed to compete one day before the Olympics.
Yeah.
But for me, 100%, I want to say I don't want to go against my country, because that's my country, and I'm going to represent my country anyway.
Yeah.
And if we'll be told to go and swim, then I will do that. But otherwise, I wouldn't come back to the international meets without the Russian flag.
I was going to mention that we've had a few guests on the show from the 1980s era, Rowdy Gaines, Craig Beardsley, Glenn Mills, all U.S. men's team swimmers who, when the U.S. decision was made to boycott the Olympics that were in Moscow, they didn't get to participate, and they had that kind of Olympic dream of theirs taken away. Of course, Rowdy came back 4 years later and won a bunch of medals, but the other two didn't have a chance to do that. And I'm reflecting on the conversations that we had with those people who had, politics impact their careers in sport and kind of interrupt what is happening athletically. And I think it's, would be unfair for anyone to look at the current situation and just say here's an opportunity to not have those things separated. But they at least did know at some point early on, where the U.S. trials were held, in advance of the Olympics, but after that decision was made. So actually they knew going into the trials that they weren't actually going to go to the games. They had some foresight to say, here's where the season's going to go. Not that takes anything away from it. But it would be a difficult thing for someone in your position to be going to. It's hard to train, like, so to go to the pool every day for right now, to have the focus of NCAAs is coming up. There's a few months out from that. That gives you something to focus on and train hard for, and a goal in front of you, which I think we all need to have, because to get that extra little bit that you need to swim at an elite level and perform at an elite level out of training, you have to have something that you're looking forward to. And I'm sure, like, during COVID, that was a difficult thing to know. Okay, when's sport coming back? When are we going to be able to participate? I don't know. So why even go to the pool today? What am I training for? Sort of thing. So I could see that if that there would be a number of Russian athletes who are in that kind of position where it's like, okay, what are we doing? And so either whatever your choice is, like having, or whatever the circumstances dictate what your choices are, having something tangible to hang on to, I'm sure is really meaningful for you, just to get the most out of your training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I treat that as for me, I treat that as a period to get my Stanford degree, because I feel like that's a brilliant opportunity for that. So when you have both the Olympics, World Champs, and everything, to focus, especially because I'm also almost finished with my degree, so I have a year and a half more, and this is the great opportunity just to focus on studying and just get everything possible and everything you can out of it. So that's probably my reasoning for that right now. And when we're going to be back at the international stage, and we're going to be back at some point, I'll be done with my degree, and I can fully focus on swimming.
But in the meanwhile, for my expert research for the last 1 minute, you went 51.2 back in April, May. You went 51.2 long course, right? 100 fly.
Yes, I was 51.0 if I'm not mistaken. 51.0 in April. 51.0 in April.
In April. Yeah. And qualifying for Paris the qualifying period opened March 1st. And you had to get under 51, I want to say 6. So you're under the qualifying time for the A cut, right? In the period so far. So you've met that FINA A cut. So let's see what happens. That just shakes out. Meanwhile, you're focusing on what you can do in all you can control, which is train your ass off, right? That's what you're doing?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so, but the other question is that in order to this A standard to be counted, you have to do that in the FINA approved meet, or not World Aquatics approved meet. And Russian nationals, I'm not sure if they are World Aquatics approved meet right now. Yeah. Luckily, and I'm grateful that the world records of Zhenya and Clement got ratified. Yeah. So, but I'm not sure if the A standard at this meet would count towards the qualification.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had a few audience questions submitted on Instagram, so I want to get to a few of those. They're kind of outside of the swimming realm, a few of them, but this one's from Alita Morelli. Says, do you have any pets? And if so, do your pets affect your training? I would imagine staying in a hotel, maybe not.
No, I have a dream of having a dog. Really, really bad. But no, right now, too big of a responsibility. I'm getting my mom to get a dog.
All right. Well, what breed is it going to be when you get a dog? What breed?
Oof, that's a hard question. I want to get. Let me translate that real quick. What's the? I have a minute, right? I have a minute because I want to.
It better not be a small, little, tiny chihuahua.
No.
It has to be a big dog, a good dog. Yeah.
My mom is a very big fan of Labrador. My mom is a very big fan of Labrador, and I would want to get. It's called the. What's the breed?
Russian Wolfhound.
That's his nickname, guys.
You know what I see? Just don't do this. This is a pet peeve of mine. Don't get a dog that is in the wrong climate. Because I hate when I see people with a husky and they're in really warm climates, and these dogs are meant for just in the winter, and vice versa. If there's any breed that's like not meant for the cold, you live in California, so just don't get anything crazy. All right.
Hairless dog it is, California.
I got it.
All right, what do you got?
So my mom was a big fan of Labrador or a golden retriever.
Okay. All right.
Good ones, yeah.
I would want to get a Doberman.
They're good swimmers. No.
How do you feel about the Doberman? Would you chop the ears?
No. Oh, to make them straight?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
probably yeah.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
yes. It really is. Yes. And
All
back
right.
to the question. I used to have a cat, but unfortunately, I was found allergic to cats, so we gave it away.
Oh man. Well, you found out the hard way. You and me both. I'm allergic to cats too, so that's a no-go for me.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one from Tavo Swim. Tavo Swim says, what's your favorite sport other than swimming? And I might even take it and say, if you were going to be successful as an athlete in another sport that wasn't swimming, what would it be?
Hockey.
Ooh,
Hockey.
Definitely hockey.
Nice.
Definitely hockey.
nice.
All right.
Despite the
Do you
fact
watch
that
the
I have
NHL?
no idea how to skate, I'm absolutely trash at ice skating. Maybe you saw the videos I posted on Instagram with my story, how I just fall on it's so bad. But it's fun fact. But when I was back in Russia, we once in a while we do some sort of DNA tests. So like, what sports would you potentially play? Like your DNA, like your like.
Yeah.
And hockey was number one. Swimming was number two. Hockey was number one.
Whoa. Based on a
Yep.
DNA test. I wonder what that
That's
means.
specific. Yeah, it's not
That's
just like, oh, you're a power athlete. It goes all the way down to what sport.
Yeah, puck handling skills. Do you follow the NHL at all?
Yes. NHL, but more primarily KHL, the Russian hockey league.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Russian,
right.
Kazakhstan, and Chinese.
Oh, sick.
And Chinese. Okay.
I mean,
All
there are
right.
just teams from China. It's kind of like KHL. It's Kunlun Red Star from Beijing and Boris from Astana from Kazakhstan. So it's like, and there are also Belarusian team, Dynamo Minsk. So yeah, follow that a lot.
All right. Okay, so favorite movie. This one's from a 3D printed wizard. What's your favorite movie?
Gentleman
What is that?
by Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good director, dude.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like him.
All right. Here's one that you might appreciate from Ivan Jermella wants to know why his name sounds so badass.
It's also fun because a lot of the Americans, they cannot pronounce my name. They just cannot like do it. Andrei. They're just like Andre or Andrew. I'm like, no, I'm Andrei.
Well, Luke was saying Andrea. Yeah.
I know I messed up. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like the pronunciation. Of course, they're never going to get it right. Students, in our defense, who didn't speak Russian growing up, but how do you say any name that ends? So yours ends OV, but there are Russian names that end OVA, and I feel like those names are often the emphasis is put in the wrong place. Like, I think it took a while for people to start saying Efimova. Is that even the right way to say it? Or for a while it was Efimova, is what everyone said. So what's the right way to say your name? And give us a linguistic lesson on how to pronounce Russian names.
Correctly pronounced my name is Andrei Minakov.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but interview with Yulia is Yefimova. So I guess it's just individually. So everyone has his or her own, like, the way they pronounce, because it's just like coming for ages, right? Because we have our families, and it's just like it's common in that family to pronounce it that way, and another family to pronounce it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually the people are just getting mistaken. They start to emphasize the last part, like OV, as you rightly mentioned. It's just like, but mine, for example, case is right. So Minakov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But
Well, I mean, your English is so good, and I assume that that's a reflection of both, your hard work and your intellect, as well as some exposure at a younger age to speaking English. But what are some of the things that are difficult coming from a Russian native speaker to pick up and master the English language?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say that my English is so good, but it's just probably just spoken language and just the experience and the years I've spent here in America. But I would say that it's just so much easier once you get into these like society, and just once you get into English spoken society, it's just so much easier to learn, because it's like to learn how to swim when you be thrown into the pool,
Yeah.
So that's just like the way it's just But yeah, when I was getting into Stanford, I had a perfect score in my SAT test for math.
Yeah.
for math, but my English was not that great, and so the reason it took me a year to get it in here, because I withdrew my application and studied for 1 more year, but I also was lucky because of the Olympics, and I had to study a lot more English rather than math, and then I ended up doing another test and I got in.
All right, we got a few more questions, a little bit more swimming focused than Brian's little divergence. So Andrew's 97 wants to know, what's your favorite fly set? You can say 100 fly if you want. We'll believe it.
Favorite fly set? The one I've done or the one I'm just thinking of?
Either one.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because it's just the same, I guess. My favorite fly set was definitely just 425 fly.
Yeah.
The prior like 2000, prior like my arrival to Stanford, the longest and the biggest fly set I was doing was just like 425, so like 625s fly with 25 easy in between. So we'd be like a total of 825s where you go 25 fast and 25 easy fly. That's probably my set.
Oh yeah.
Set. Yep.
But like,
So we talked a little bit about your swimming volume. How much of your swimming do you do butterfly? Is it pretty fractional?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So the way I do it, like 5% of what I do, and I would say like even 99, I would do freestyle. The fly, I start hitting fly when it's drill sets or when it's pace or more heart rate stuff with fly, because I don't like swimming fly slowly because they'll ruin my technique. So what I do is that I practice my technique, and that's why if I swim fly, it's always pace or high heart rate.
I was gonna ask how you describe your fly, because I watched a couple of your races, and like I saw your 2019 when you were next to Dressel when he set the world record, and you had a really, really nice race. You went out solid at the turn, you came back, you were strong. But I did see a change in your technique, like especially the last 25. You started to get a little more up and down forward, but you still maintained your really, really nice catch. Right. You still maintain your really nice catch down, even though you started to shorten up a little bit, and you got your kicks a lot more powerful, a lot driven, especially in the last 10, 15 meters. I liked your technique all the way through. Describe your fly. How would you describe it? What do you work on? What do you keep your eyes on when you're racing? And how do you train for it?
Mm-hmm. So I would say the fly for me is natural, because when I was racing in 2019, just like it felt natural. First of all, I want to clarify, I have never done lifting in my life, and I wouldn't call my butterfly as a powerful stroke, rather than I'm just laying high and just moving through the water, like flying through the water. That's what I like. When I moved to America, I started to gain weight a lot. That's probably was number one problem that I had. And if we just go through my years that I was at Stanford, so I raced at Tokyo, 50.8, flying, very light butterfly. Then coming in here, 3 months in, right before the World Championships in 2021 in Abu Dhabi, I gained that work with, this yard system when we were doing a lot of underwaters, a lot of kick sets and everything that helped me to produce fast times in short course meters, because I won PB by a second. I was 49.2 that year, where my PB was 50.1 back from 2018. And I couldn't go faster than 2018, prior to World Champs. And then NCAAs, 43.7.
You won.
Also fast. Yeah. But then we decided, and the ban from the World Aquatics that we were going to race, we decided for me to try to lift. And that was a horrible mistake, but I guess it was actually good, because like now we know this it's not for me. I gained around like 15 pounds, and that's why my 2022 year was off in long course wise. And I just gained a lot of weight and just couldn't move through the water as easily as I used to before. And then coming into, since then I just tried to lose weight, just try to be on that track, just to again fly again. And I can say that only now a year or year and a half later, I came to the weight that I used to be prior to coming to States.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, you look leaner. Look at you.
Yeah,
Look at
you look leaner.
No, man, it's that hockey player DNA. You bulk up too easy.
I want to know if that's a Stanford thing, because I'm friends with Jason Dunford, and Jason was a 51 flyer finals at the Olympics, the Worlds. And I remember he came to swim with us and he blew us out of the water. Then he came to lift afterwards, and Jason could not lift. Jason Dunford could not. I don't think he's been touched weights very often. He was just like you, very much on top of the water, very sleek, very easygoing and slender. Is that just? Do you think the Stanford program just excels at creating at the people who don't need to lift, who can just have the power naturally through the water? Is it something about the program or your background or just you? What do you think?
I think that, first of all, I'm super grateful that Stanford gives all the opportunities. So we don't have the system where they just tell you, oh, you have never lifted, you have to lift. Like, it's not like that. It's of course we move on as a group and we move on as a team, but everyone has, like, its own little things that help him succeed. And the coaches, the working staff, and everyone is helping to evaluate that. And again, for me, I was working with a coach who was strength and conditioning coach, Anthony Tran. Love him with the bottom of my heart. We were working and just finding the best solution that would fit me. And I know that, like, most European swimmers are on the same page. Like, the lifting is not that common there for European athletes. Of course, like, if you're Ben Proud, hi Ben. Like, the way this guy trains is just crazy. Or Florian Manadou, when I was training in Energy Stand in 2018. Yeah. Good old years, but yeah, this is just crazy how they way train. But especially young athletes from the Europe, we don't lift. We do something like, to keep up the power and the strength, but lifting like US based swimmers, no, we don't do that.
Ben Proud told us he wasn't even strong though. He's like, I'm not strong. And we're like, what? Look at you.
He was so sheepish about it.
Yeah, he's like, oh. Who do we ask him if he could win an arm wrestling match with?
Flo. And then
Flo. Maybe Flo is just like, you mentioned Flo as well, but yeah, maybe Flo would take him. But yeah, he was like, oh, no chance. No way I can do that. We're like,
oh, and Petey. Petey was the other one.
Yep. He said, no way.
Yeah, of course. Not strong guys. No. Not strong guys. Nope.
Do you have natural strength to weight ratio? Like, we asked Darry Rose a few weeks ago, whatever, how many pull-ups he can do. He's like, I'm not very good at pull-ups. I could only do about 19. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty good, Darry. Can you do you do any sort of like pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, any like non-weighted dry land that show your strength?
Yes. So I push-ups, pull-ups. It's also complicated a little bit for me to say that, because I'm confused with the names in English for that, because apparently, especially when I also work with my national team staff members, so I know all the exercises, like, in Russian 100%, but in English somewhat no. But yeah, the way you described that and the exercise you described and you mentioned, yes. When in the example with 19, I'm just trying to remember how far could I go. But I remember my PB at some point when we had a testing when I got here, I did 13 in a row. But I think right now, nonstop once, I can do more than 15. But it's all worse. I don't know. Usually I do the set of 4 sets, 6, 4, 3 or something like that. But I add weight, so I go like 5 or 6 no weight, 6 no weight. Then I add chains and go like 4 and 3.
Okay. So I want to clarify something. So does that mean that now you're not going in the gym at all? Do you do like some abs on the deck and some things to at least like maintain some of the, I don't know, what would you call it? Like some of the pump that you get from doing any forearm work in the gym. I mean, I can tell you from Olympic lifting, like I feel personally so much better in the water if I'm doing some strength. It doesn't necessarily need to be heavy stuff, but I just want to clarify like what you do, because also it strikes me that I think sometime recently Dressel gave a comment at a recent swim meet saying like his results were what they were, and in part it's because he's realizing he needs to be a lot stronger and he needs to put a lot more muscle on, which anytime I've seen someone like him, I go, dang, like he looks very muscular. And I would think, having worked with, and swam with other people, like maybe that I've heard similar stories like you, where you get too big and it kind of weighs you down and you lose the pop and you lose the float in the water. It seems like for him, he needs to add bulk, but for you, you don't need it. So I'm just curious, like, do you do anything at all, or are you totally away from it and now it's just swimming?
So for me, I also think and believe that dryland is very important for swimmers. For me, I prioritize two things: the core workouts, because the core stability and the way you can hold yourself on the surface of the water is the essential part in swimming. Because if you're not going to have a strong core, your body will just crack or something like that. And it's also your rotation and everything. So the core is probably number one priority on the dryland for me. And the second one is stretching, especially for fly, when you got to have super big amplitude doing like that. You got to have the mobility and stretching in order to be able to do that. And also stretching, it recovers your muscles, recovers your body. So these are the two things that I primarily focus on the dryland. The another thing that we also do is kind of once in a while we do soccer training. So we do the part like ladders.
What do you mean?
Ladder.
Ladders.
Ladder.
Agility.
Oh, like a mobility kind of. Yeah.
And agility, mobility. I would say more agility.
What speed?
Yeah.
We talked about butterfly, but I mean, at 18 years old, you went 47.5 freestyle. You're a world-class freestyler. What's going on with your freestyle? How are you keeping that in shape? I mean, if you go 47.5 now, you final. And what's going on with your freestyle training? How is that mobility, dexterity, core strength, moving across the 100 free, and where do you want to take it?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I guess the freestyle is going good for me because all my entire life I train freestyle, and freestyle is the primary stroke that I'm training. That's why it's so good. But as well as I also used to have the world junior record in the 100 freestyle before they published took it. Engage with where I want to bring that. I don't know. There are no borders. We're 6'5", we're 6'0". There are no. We just want to evaluate that. But what I like about freestyle and what I like in general is more of 200 freestyle. I'm just getting into it. So we had Russian nationals. I won 142.8, which is probably not as fast as the guys who went at the European meet in Romania, right? In Romania. But it's just personally, I like it way more because it's just you have way more time on the distance and you're just cruising through it, Further in the 50 where you basically have no chance for mistake, where you just dive in and just you have to do everything perfect to win it.
I think I recall a 200 free for a leadoff relay that someone did that looked like he was going to die on deck for an hour afterwards. Do you know who that could be? You don't remember? Was that Georgia Tech? You let off the inter free relay, then you just flopped on deck, and they looked like.
Yeah. We have video of you passing out.
You want to do the long course inter free?
Well, I gave it all, and ended up with the Stanford record. Because I hadn't trained 2 free type of workout prior to that a lot, but I still won 131, which is good, man. To prove that this year, because I've started doing way more workouts based on the 2 freestyle. And as we spoke earlier, I moved to the distance group, or to the mid distance group. While I used to be, I used to be training with sprinters before, but now I'm also training with a mid distance and maybe one-time distance per week. Because in the fall when I was training here, not in college, but I was training here, I would be doing sets 3,000 on time or 6,000 with just workouts and just super aerobic 3 1,000s. 5 8. Just to keep that aerobic base.
Okay, but what did you get out of that personally? You are a very experienced swimmer. You are a mature swimmer. When you did that, how did that? I mean, I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but I would do it if I believed in it and if I understood how it did for me. How did you approach that? And why? What do you think it benefited you? How did it benefit doing 3,000 for time, for instance?
Well, bringing back the example with a house, like the house needs to have a basement, right? And for me, like this type of work and this whole aerobic section of swimming is like a foundation for me. And then I started building a house with bringing down the volume and bringing up the heart rate. So I treat it as like that. And second, if you do that since your early ages and you're just like used to it, and if you're not going to do that, then you're going to fail. That's probably was the primary reason why we didn't race well last year, is because we decided to try just more of sprint type work. And we didn't do that, like this distance work. We'll be just doing like 25s, 50s, 100s occasionally. But in the fall, I was doing sets like 450s on the bucket, so like 25 bucket, 25 easy. Then it would be like 1,000, and then 4 rounds of that. We would be doing sets like 6 rounds, 400 on 6 minutes, plus 100 on 2 minutes. Where the 100s are always fast effort and the 400s are descent 106. We'll be doing sets like 400 plus 4 ones again, but this time 400s would be just like aerobic, where 4 ones would be descent by round and 3 rounds like that. So I'm just used to do that all stuff. I enjoy it and like suffering, and just this is what I gain confidence from, that I can just train like 2,000 per practice. That's what happened in December, by the way. Like after Russian National Stolnikov Cup, I will be just training like 2,000-3,000 per practice. But I saw PBs in the Stolnikov Cup, still managed to hold the both 100 fly and the 100 freestyle, because what we had on the day 2, we had 100 fly, which I went 49.6, which is also good, and 30 minutes, and then 100 freestyle 46.1 PB. So managed.
Wow. No, it seems like the training is definitely paying off with multiple events, and that 142 200 free is pretty solid. I guess what else are you working on fine tuning in that 200 free? Because I imagine 200 free long course is still kind of new for you on the senior level.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably the 4-2 free relay for Russian national team. I'm always, and I used to be the type of the guy who fulfills all the holes in the relays, and like for everywhere. Would it be Stanford, where I assume all the relays? Would it be Russian national team, where the only one relay that I wouldn't swim would be the 4x2 free relay? And in Tokyo, it was the only relay that medaled. Yeah, we can discuss here how like Russia was going for the gold and for freestyle relay.
So good.
I'm still suffering from that, but
I'm sorry.
And I mean, I did my part well, so it's not on me. We lose as a team, so we lose as a team.
It was epic.
And just that was kind of like also a motivation for me, just like to maximize your chances heading into the next Olympic year, an Olympic cycle. So and again, I just enjoy it. I don't like 50. 50 is not my thing. 102 freestyle is just the thing. Because even I had the fastest back end half in the 100 prior to David Popovici took it away from me like last year, so I'm second one. But I also cruised it, so I went like 40. It's so funny when the swimming stats, they did the list, and it would be like the people are going like 46 low, or 46, 47 low, 47 low, 47 low, like 46 high, and then me just like 48.5. It was like 24, 4, 24.1.
Like,
Even was it Nathan Adrian who said, "All right, guys, let's just follow up with some tier pro sim serious meet, go like easy in the first 50, then flip it and just go crazy fast."
That's funny.
Shooting on the rankings, but that was hilarious. And I remember just like one of the comments, like just the people who were going through that list, were like, "Did Minakov just negative split the 100?" And it's like it was back into my teenage years. I'm not gonna lie, I miss the years. I miss these times when, especially like Russian nationals, and you could just play with that. You just play like old people around, like, trying hard, but you can, that you're just gonna go easy, and then you're gonna come back. It's fun. It's fun.
I like messing around with stuff like that, although I didn't have the speed to be able to do that at US Nationals and still mess around like somebody like Nathan Adrian could. Speaking of hilarious, before we talk to you, we thought the first interaction we ever had with you was at a press conference at NCAA's, and it was the year you won the 100 fly, so at Georgia Tech. And it was also the first year that we ever went to any swim meets. We'd been doing podcasts for a while, but of course, like things happening in the world, I had to ask the question. Somebody in the room was going to ask it. It was us and like other media outlets. And I remember asking you something about like, hey, like talk about just being from Russia and like what impact that's had on your life right now with everything that's happening in the world. And I thought it was so hilarious because you didn't even like, I feel like you looked at me or like heard the question and then you just turned and I could see your eyes looking in the corner. And like, I didn't know because I was facing you and it was the student information or the sports information director from Stanford. And he just steps in like all you had to do was look at him. And then he took control of the room. He goes, yeah, we're going to keep all the questions focused on sports. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, you had to give it a shot. But in that same press conference, then like every other athlete, because we just come up from the women's meet where like, of course, the elephant in the room at that meet was Leah Thomas. And so he had been asking all the women's swimmers at the meet, like, hey, can you talk about the impact of this? There's obviously something else going on at the meet. And nobody, I mean, I don't fault anyone for this, but none of the female swimmers would take this question like head on. None of them answered it or gave like an honest thing. They were just like, oh, we're just focused on us and our effort. And but it was you and your press conference, nothing to do with that, but like the confidence that you had in your press conference, because then suddenly we were all asking the questions of you. And then at some point it was like you were holding court and you go, okay, so here's what I want to know. And then you said, like, shouldn't NCAAs just be called 21 and under world championships? And like, we just appreciated that, like, instead of us, it's normally like, the media is asking the athlete the question, and then suddenly you just turned it on everyone and you're like, okay, but here's what I want to know. And you're the only athlete that I've ever seen do something like that. Now that I've been at that many press conferences, but I don't know. It's kind of funny how you just like took command and you're like, whatever. Like I'm here to ask questions and talk shit about swimming, so why not?
I remember that. I remember that very well. I remember how you just got lost. I asked that question, and everybody just like, what just happened? Like, and like it was funny because the whole room was just like looking at each other and say like, who's gonna respond to that? Like, who was that question addressed to? Like, what?
Well, that means sometimes you can just for anyone because we're only new to this in the last couple of years, having gone into this environment. Every swim meet that we go to is different in terms of like, can we ask you a question directly? And is there a protocol to it? Or is there someone like you have to raise your hand and ask for the microphone and then you ask it like a formal press conference? And sometimes it's just more casual. So like, I don't know, that one was more formal where we had to raise a hand, ask for a microphone, get on the thing. Like, they were pretty fair in how they distributed which outlet got to ask questions. And it's because the week prior, you had all these bigger networks, like at least big American news networks were there. ESPN was there. CBS News was there, all for the like Leah Thomas trans discussion thing happening. So like that process was set before we got to the men's meet. And so it was like more formal. Whereas I think if it was like at nationals or even like last year at Minnesota when we were shoved in this tiny little room and it was more like, it was almost as if we were in the locker room, like that kind of thing that you see if you see post game interviews in like the NHL locker room or something. That's more what it was like. So you could probably just answer it straight up. But that one for sure, the environment is what made everybody freeze. It's pretty funny. Hey, Luke had one for you. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah. Andrei, when I was growing up, so I swam I swam college in the 90s, but I swam age group in the 80s. When I swam age group in the 80s, many of my heroes were Russian. Sannikov was one of my heroes in the 80s for what he did. Unbelievable, Vladimir. And in the 90s, obviously, it was Alexander Popov and Denis Pankratov. Those were the two like heroes for me. I just loved how they changed the sport. And when I swam in college, I was lucky to have Turetsky's sports science guy come and do testing on us. So I got involved and I got to understand a little bit of the Russian swimmers. And so my idols at the time were Russian swimmers. You growing up, so you were born in 2002, so your age grouper in 2010s. Who did you look up to? Who are your idols? Were they Russians? Were they Americans, Europeans? I want to know the perspective of what it was like being an age grouper in Russia growing up, and who were your idols in swimming? I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I already mentioned earlier, prior to coming to the national team, so when I was 13, 14, I didn't know anybody. I was just training with my, even not club team, high school. Because in Russia, the athletics is part of the educational system. And some schools have swimming, some schools have soccer, some schools have like just basic athletics or something, basketball and everything. So this is like, it's basically like a subject in school that you have to pass, like mathematics or physics. And I was just training with this like high school kids that are like, out of them, like nobody like even went on the maximum, was just like national age, some like 15, 14 like age competitions, maybe like third place maximum, with like nothing more than that. And I was just training with them. I was enjoying swimming, I was enjoying my life, I was studying, I wasn't paying attention to anything that was happening on our world. I knew of only the Yulia Yefimova and Vlad Morozov.
That's
and
it.
Phelps, of course, and Phelps.
Yeah.
Nothing more, like nobody else. I was like, who are these people? And especially because, like, you know, it was funny that when I first got in a national junior team, we first went to the European Youth Olympic Festival in Győr, in Hungary, in July.
Yeah.
And it was just like kind of like, you know, the people I knew of from the Russian junior meets, there are people just like 14, 15 years of age, right? Like just people, I knew them, right? They were like super like fast elite swimmers, right? And so we'd be there, we won. And then, because I swim fast, I swim like 52.0, and I got drafted as the second butterflyer to the World Juniors. And there, the actual junior national team, they were racing at Russian nationals to get qualified for the World Juniors. They would be racing European junior meets, European Junior Championships in Netanya that year. And I just remember how everything just changed with me quickly, because basically, like, you know, these people were living a life of swimming. They were trying like as hard to get into the national team, even junior national team. And it's just me who just swam 52.0. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Like, I actually remember that because I was supposed to go and race with Terrapins at some junior meets here, national juniors here. And I couldn't go because I got drafted for the national team. And I was sad, and I was like, all right, I'm going to Indianapolis, but I don't want to go there. Like, and I remember my American friends who were Terrapins, they were saying like, dude, that's like World Junior Championships. Like, what are you even talking about? I'm like, that's just some random meet. I don't really care about that. And then like, and it's just like all coming into, it's just like, you know, as far as you just don't take it serious, I guess you have the advantage because you have like clear mind, you have clear like emotions. Yeah, you're not really into it, so you just go and just like having fun, you know. And it was also so fun because I was only 15, and that was like the lowest minimum like age requirement for that. And I would remember like 18-year-olds, they would be just like, you know, trying to play like emotional games or like psychological games. But like, you know, even like from my national team as well, when we'd be sitting in the call room and the people would be just like, you know, asking like, I'm just sitting getting ready for the race, and my like national team guy goes, all right, bring me water. Like, you know, thinking of just I'm like super young and I need to like, and I have to do like everything he tells me. So that was like, and just me just like kind of like, all right, you want water? Here it comes. And just like, and then we raced and I win, and like, or yeah, like hopefully like I'm sorry that water didn't help you. Yeah, so it's like fun, especially, but it also like, you know, getting into the national team as well. I remember my first ever, like when I first got to the national team 2019 senior national team for the world champs, I had like a picture of like where I'm going, like this is a world champs. This is like kind of like hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of hype. And my first ever roommate was Vlad Morozov. I'm like, I'm gonna leave with Vlad Morozov. And then just like, we'd be just like talking, especially because I was studying in America and living in America for part of my life. He was living in America, so like he's a super nice guy. He treated me very well, like in the entrance, like to the national team and senior level. He taught me a lot. He just gave me that, like, this entry level, and just helped me to settle in the team. And since then, yeah, of course, I started paying way more attention, like, learning and just thinking like what it's like to be on the national team, to represent Russia, and to swim at the World Championships and beyond. So yeah, this is fun. They're all just like so fun.
It's so funny just to hear about. Luke's told the story sometimes about having heard that Popov would walk into a ready room and just go, "Gentlemen," because that's what Duet Jaganya had told us that. So the fact that that's the title of your favorite movie, and also the way that you tend to be in a ready room environment is pretty funny. So, well, hey, we know you got to get going, so we're gonna close with just a few rapid fire questions and then end it. But all right, what's the hardest race in swimming?
The hardest is 4 a.m. I think 4 a.m.
Olympic gold or world record?
Olympic gold.
Do you pee in the pool?
Yeah.
When you retire from swimming, are you now going to be a power lifter?
No. No.
All right. And then the most important one is, how often do you do social kick?
Every day.
That's what I'm talking about. Every day. Us too.
Every day.
I love it. Dude, thanks for hanging out, man. It's fun to get to chat with you. You're a riot. And I know that there's some uncertainty with what happens in 2024, but either way, we're here to watch you excel with the newer, lighter, more nimble, more agile you, 15 strength pounds lighter. And so we'll look forward to watching you at NCAAs, and then whatever comes next. But you're welcome back here anytime. And thanks for spending the time with us today.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you. I appreciate that. And just had fun. A lot of fun.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website,